Jesi milostivi čovekoljubiv Bog i tebi slavu uznosimo, Otcu i Sinu i Svetome Duhu, sada i u vekove vekova.
In a world of shadows and secrets untold, where primeval stories make the brave go cold, mighty gods on high and realms below, whispers of legends that shape each soul. And nightmarish dreams, cryptids lurking, nothing's as it seems. Giants walking, angels and demons fight. Only truth can bring the light. Through the echoes of time, the tales unfold. Mysteries arise as the prophecies are foretold. From valiant knights to buried treasure, this podcast brings nothing but pleasure. Welcome to myth, mysteries and majesty. Study with us and don't be a travesty. Theology, mythology, fantasy and horror. Dungeons and dragons, Skyrim and Mordor. And Mordor, powers haunting evening. In gothic castles where they're screaming. Wizards cast spells in their towers tonight, exploiting enigmas hidden from our sight. Archaeologists make excavations deep of the ancient tombs where pharaohs sleep. In the dust of ages we chronicles keep, storytelling's power of monsters that creep. Myths, mysteries and majesty is the place for you to learn about this haunted space. From scholarship to manuscripts of old, unlock the secrets of wisdom and gold.
What happens when a holiday or birthday is coming to one of your children and you decide to buy them a conjuring book of spells and summoning demons? Well, every dumb action has a dumb reaction. So then you open the door to the demonic of your life, and you have to call for a priest, pastor, or an exorcist to come in your home. In this case, it was a couple of demonologists, and this is the third episode in this series that we're continuing with Ed and Lorraine Warren. They're not with us anymore. They passed away a while ago, but whose work, books, and movies made according to their stories and books are still alive and present, and so much educational for us. This episode 151, we came so far in this 26 months or so. Shaun, when you first read or heard this story, what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts were, what did you think was going to happen? If you're going to buy a conjuring book for your daughter, why would you buy a conjuring book for a teenager? That's stupid. That's just stupid.
Yeah, that's why at first I thought maybe I should be very gracious, but I'm like, the heck with that. I'm just going to say it as it is. It was a dumb move by one of the parents, and but we're gonna soon assess the story. And of course, if we're too goofy or too tired and we're late, it's my fault because we just finished pre-recording hour and 25 minutes on the episode that will be uploaded in a couple of months. I'm slowly preparing for my summer vacation where I won't be able to go live, so I'm slowly pre-recording. So both Shaun and I are very tired, especially Shaun coming after work to 2 podcasts in one day. So let's start with this, with story number 5, a conjuring book for Christmas. And I'm just going to read most important sections, not everything. So Lorraine, Ed's wife, she reviewed the phone calls left on the answering machine. A bizarre series of clicks and odd, wearing sounds, followed by the distraught voice of an unfamiliar woman. And this is what she said. I hope you can hear me. My name is Foster, Mrs. Sandy Foster. I'm Bond, James. I don't exactly know what was happening here, she said in a barely controlled voice. But my children have been hit and and chased by something. Hesitation. And there is somebody or something in the house upstairs in one of the children's bedrooms. Please call me back as soon as you possibly can. Although it was 12:40 a.m., Lorraine immediately tried to return the woman's call. When a case is referred to us, Ed explains, we immediately contact the individual or family in trouble. If it seems necessary for us to enter the case, then we will offer to help. We tell the family that we do not charge money for our time, but we must be reimbursed for basic expenses. When that's understood, we set up an appointment as soon as possible. Usually, we're on our way within an hour or two. Mrs. Foster's phone rang continuously. Then the connection was broken. Lorraine hung up and dialed again. This time it sounded as though someone had picked up the receiver, but the phone still kept ringing. The third time she tried the telephone number, Lorraine got the same frustrating response. Lorraine dialed the operator, who then dialed the number and met with the very same problem. The operator summoned her supervisor, so the supervisor ran the call through a number of electronic test procedures, but to no avail. There is something wrong with the telephone on the receiving end. Your call should make a connection. Nonetheless, the Warrens were unable to get through that night. Very interesting. Such electronic tricks are commonplace when a malevolent spirit is at work. Interference, obstruction, confusion, which are all tactics that cause delay, are routine for a determined spirit with the ability to manipulate both physical and metaphysical variables. I think that's how it's pronounced. The next morning, Sunday the 14th, Ed and Lorraine drove to the church. On their way, a powerful smell of excrement filled their car. Then, midway through the church service, the same foul physically projected odor assaulted the Warrens' senses. Once again, as they were returning home in their car, they were nauseated by a distinguished stench. Ed and Lorraine, however, did not associate it with the demonic case that they were about to investigate this afternoon. When the Warrens returned from church, Lorraine immediately telephoned the Foster's family. Mrs. Foster answered the telephone on the second ring. Lorraine told her the difficulty that she had reaching them the night before. Oh, but the telephone was in working order, the woman replied. But it didn't ring after midnight. I know, because I was waiting for you to call. By 2 p.m., the Warrens had arrived at the Foster's home. They had not witnessed the phenomena, however. It has been experienced by their 3 children, Meg, 15, Joel, 14, and Aaron, 11. Ed arranged his recording gear on a nearby table while Lorraine asked their permission to walk the house. When the Warrens were working together, Lorraine would usually investigate the premises clairvoyantly while Ed interviews the family. If there is spirit presence in a home, chances are excellent that Lorraine will become aware of it. Both Mr. and Mrs. Foster made it clear that they had not experienced any of the phenomena their children talked about. Now it's becoming more interesting. Meg has always been interested in the occult, witchcraft, spells, and that sort of thing. She has a small library, but none of the books were on conjuring. So last Christmas, I, the mother, bought her one of the conjuring demons as a present. Imagine buying your daughter a book on self-destruction. That's basically what it is. Oh, honey, here you go. Go to hell now. Not literally, but almost literally. You're not thinking that, but that's what's happening in the spirit realm. I honestly did not think anything like this was going to happen. Okay, Ed said, where's this book? Upstairs. It explains how to conjure something like 75 different demons. Oh, it's not a big deal, Sean. I thought it's some really serious book, but it's only 75 demons. I think we're still in the realm of the legion, so it's not that bad, right? It tells the correct ritual and explains the debt you pay if the ritual works. Okay, I'll stop here because I read for a while. Okay, so the story begins. Ed and Lorraine get a phone call. They try to call the lady back. The phone doesn't go through. They tried the next day after the church. The lady answers. She said, "Yeah, the phone works. I've been waiting the whole time." The whole atmosphere was filled with this awful smell that they didn't associate with the case immediately. They visit the house. They talked to the lady. She said, "Oh yes, I just bought a conjuring book to one of my daughters for Christmas." We didn't witness nothing. Neither did I, nor my husband. But my kids are, and one of the kids who received the gift, Meg, she said, "Oh yeah, the book has the ritual of summoning 75 spirits." Imagine if you're in that shoes. What would you tell to your parents? You have to be kind. They call you for help, but on the other hand, you're like, "What are you thinking?"
So these parents had to be extremely progressive because witchcraft was only legalized in the United States in the 1950s. And so, this is the 1970s, right? So it had only been legal for 20 years. So something that was previously illegal, they're now buying the books that do this stuff. Also, the 75 demons, I'm not aware of a book that conjures 75, but 72 in the Lesser Key of Solomon, she might have been messing around with that. And in fact, when I think they asked her the name of the demon that she tried to conjure, and she couldn't remember the name, but she said that she tried multiple of them, and she wanted to use the elements that she had available to her. I'm assuming it was the Lesser Key of Solomon, but yeah, it's ridiculous, the idea that you would purchase something like this for your kids. But again, this was the 70s. This was when churches were really dying out. Progressivism had taken its toll since the mid to late 1800s. Even mainline denominations really weren't preaching sin or spiritual warfare anymore. So they probably didn't see any harm in it. But obviously they found harm regardless.
By the way, I was just greeting when I did this. I was greeting Ember and Troy. And, thank you, our dear friends, for your kind comments and for supporting this episode. That means a lot. So again, Ed is asking the girl who got the book from her mom as a gift, where is the book? And she said upstairs. And did you perform any of the rituals? Yes. What demons did you try to conjure? Which ones? She repeated. I don't know. I only did a few of those easy rituals, the ones I could understand and had the equipment for. When I did them, though, nothing happened. You would think so. So I didn't bother anymore. Thank God. Sometimes the response will come days, weeks. This is Ed and Lorraine explaining. Sometimes the response will come days, weeks, months, even years later after the summoning ritual. Tell me about what happened to you this week. Did you have any trouble, Meg? Twice. Who was here when it happened? Joel, Erin, and me. So her siblings and her. The first time was this past Thursday. Dad and mom went out to their friend's house. We stayed home because we had school the next day. Erin and Joel were already in bed. I had just taken a shower. I went downstairs to make sure the doors were locked. I also turned off the radio and downstairs lights before I went back upstairs. This is when the story is getting more and more creepy and demonic. When I got to my bedroom, I heard the water running in the bathroom. I didn't think about it at first, but a few minutes later, I went down the hall and saw that all the faucets were turned on. I turned them off. Then I heard the radio on again downstairs. The lights were on too. I yelled, "Who's there?" But nobody answered. Before I went downstairs again, I looked into Erin's room. She was asleep in her bed. I looked in Joel's room, but he wasn't asleep yet. I asked him if he turned the radio on downstairs, and he said he didn't. So I went downstairs and turned off the lights and radio for the second time. When I came back upstairs, the water in the bathroom was running again. Maybe it's Mario, the little plumber. Who knows? This got me mad because I was sure Joel was doing it. But when I came out of the bathroom, the radio was on really loud and all the lights were on downstairs. I went into Joel's room and said, "There's someone in the house." "Did you turn on the water?" Ed asked quickly, hoping to catch him off guard, the little kid. "No way," the boy replied. "I never even got out of bed." Then Meg continues, "From upstairs, I could hear the radio changing stations. So I went right back down again, thinking my parents might be home. When I got down there this time, the radio dial was moving back and forth all by itself. I just want to say that I admire her bravery. She wasn't even thinking about something demonic. She was just like, well, this is weird. I stood there and watched it, and that's when I started to get scared. Oh, I complimented her too fast. I turned off the radio and the lights again, but when I got halfway up the stairs, I felt an icy cold hand touch me on the shoulder just for a second in the dark. I just went there to my bedroom, shut the door, and turned off the light. Why would you turn off the light? I mean, I understand if it's a human intruder, so you're scared of someone actually killing you, so maybe you want to hide, but if it's a demon, that's actually worse. So she went back to her bedroom, shut the door, and turned off the light. Before I got to my bed, though, I heard the sound of footsteps, like someone was walking out my room into the hall, but the door never opened. Yeah, the demon doesn't need you to open the door. I was scared out of my mind. When I got in bed, I lay down and closed my eyes. Suddenly, I heard a door downstairs slam real hard. After that, I heard furniture being pushed around and crashing like it was being thrown by somebody who was really mad. I seriously thought there was someone in the house, but I was too scared to do anything, so I just kept my eyes closed. But even though my eyes were closed, I could see my whole room through my eyelids. I opened my eyes, but nothing was different. So I closed my eyes again. And then, through my eyelids, I saw a silver light come out of the woods and glide into my bedroom. Uh-oh. It was there when I opened my eyes, too. The next thing I knew, some hand yanked my hair 3 times. Each time it pulled harder until the third time it made my eyes water. Then I screamed and ran into Joel's room. "Joel," asked Ed, "did you hear all the noise downstairs?" "Yeah." "So why didn't you do anything?" "I was too scared." "That's a good answer," said Ed. "Erin, did you hear anything?" That's the third sibling. "I heard the furniture being thrown around, and when Meg screamed, I went into Joel's room too." "About what time did all this happen?" Ed questioned. "That's the funny thing. It was about 10:30 when I got out of the shower, but my bedroom clock was 3 hours ahead." And when I went into Joel's room, his clock was 3 hours behind. Okay, I'll stop here. Whew. Do you remember the story we covered with the I forgot if it was in the Amityville Horror or with Annabelle the Cursed Doll, where the same similar thing was happening with the furniture in their house. In one of these cases, of course, this was with another family, where there was no one there except the demonic possession in this haunted house, and the furniture would just moved violently to the ends of the room. Do you remember if it was with Annabelle or with the Amityville?
I think it was with Amityville, because the only thing that happened with Annabelle was just that she would move around on her own.
Okay, so that's the similar thing that we read in this in two of these stories. But then look at this phenomena of the she got it out of shower at a certain time, and then when she went in one room, her clock was 3 hours ahead. But she went back into Joel's room, the clock was 3 hours behind. And again, the spirit pulled her 3 times. Again and again, we see this. That so many priests and so many demonologists continue saying that it's not a coincidence that many times demons or spirits do something 3 times. They're basically reversing or trying to blaspheme the Trinity, the Godhead. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's definitely them mocking the Trinity. So the moving of one clock 3 hours ahead and the other one 3 hours behind, that's a mocking of the Trinity. The pulling of the hair 3 times, that's mocking the Trinity. I also think it's kind of interesting that she saw, and presumably she was the only one who saw the spirit go from the wilderness, the forest, or the trees, into her room, and it came to her room. So it's like, hey, I'm invited. I'm a guest. You called me. So obviously it's taken up residence.
Okay, our friend Troy has a question. So you're saying aliens and demons are the same thing?
I don't know if I said that, but I absolutely believe that.
Yeah, and it's so funny. Again, we go back to many different stories by different authors, either books or videos or articles or whatnot. Once when you open the door to these things, they're like the vampire. The spirit of the vampire, not the real physical entity. But once when you allow it and say, yeah, you're welcome in my home, and even though you don't have to utter those words through something in your life, you're open to these things. They're almost like, if we can call them spiritual rats, like it's extremely hard to get rid of them. Once when they come to the place and they infestate your whole house, your whole condo, whatever you have, it gets extremely hard to get rid of them, because many times it's not just one entity, one spirit or demon. It can be just like legion. It can be many of them. And I'm thankful that the mother, even though she made a big mistake, she called for help. And even though Ed and Lorraine were never uh, accepted as clergy or like necessarily religious demonologists, they're still accepted and admired by the clergy that dealt with the demonic exorcism. And they'll like even send some of the victims, they will send them to Ed and Lorraine because they had reputation of helping people, not charging them for them just to travel and stuff like that, which is normal. But we can see here throughout, I mean, I came to chapter 8 over and over again, even in the chapters they're not talking about stories, but their experiences. Sometimes they would just spend a whole chapter about their experiences. Their experience does not go against the Bible, but it just adds on their, like, what would they smell? How the spirits, when the case would come, would try to intimidate them. The spirit would know in advance that the victim will call Ed and Lorraine, so would try to intimidate them, make noise. There would be like scratching or knocking sound. Like they would recognize these things, Ed and Lorraine, through years and decades of working. So they're like, oh, something is coming. It's a big case. So it's like this book is not an expensive one. It's like encyclopedia of knowledge of what was happening through decades of their work. Again, it's not everything that is mentioned in the Bible, but it's not against the Bible. And in the past, I would meet some Pentecostal or charismatic believers. They would tell me, hey, you know this funny thing about demons, and I would always tell them, no, that's not in the Bible. And then when I started reading this book, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been listening to this for this couple of decades from Christians, but I would always tell them, oh no, it's not in the Bible. I don't want to believe in this. One of the things is like the demonic would always, have this sulfur smell around them. And Ed and, and Lorraine, they mentioned the same thing that I would hear from different Christians. They will be basically some Christians or people who are gifted spiritually, they'll be able to sniff, to smell the demonic. So it's such a good book with all these experiences. I just want to ask you before I continue reading, in your life, in your experiences living without Christ in the New Age, have you ever experienced some crazy demonic experience, or felt that sulfur smell, or saw something levitating that make you like got goosebumps?
I mean, I've seen some stuff, but I think the sulfur thing is something that everyone probably has experienced. Um, if you're just walking and you're like, man, is there like an open sewer somewhere? That smell of like natural gas, and there's no source for it. Yeah, I mean the demons they have that they bring that odor with them, but I want to maybe caveat, I don't know if it's bringing the odor or if your brain is interpreting something negative, something that it's disgusted by, and it's interpreting it as a smell of something that is disgusting. And so it doesn't actually have its own odor that could waft and diminish or increase depending on where you go, but it's the brain is interpreting it as being a bad odor, when in reality it's just picking up on something that is negative.
Okay, thank you for that. So again, we're going back to Meg, who is telling about the differences in clocks in two different rooms. And then Ed says, all right. Okay, we'll wait for Shaun. Maybe he clicked by mistake. Shame on you for clicking by mistake to exit.
I didn't. I think we're both encountering a windstorm, so I think that maybe we got disconnected. Where did I leave off?
Yeah, well, no, I was about to start reading and then you disappeared. But I just want to say that's so funny because we're talking about demonic and all this infestation and attacks, and then you disappeared. But yeah, I also want to tell to the audience before we start going live, I received a warning message on my phone about the dust storm here in Chicago until 8:30. So that's next 12 minutes. So my windows have been shaking. Not furniture so much, but we've been recording for the last 2.5 hours because we've been pre-recording before going live. I'm like, it's in God's hands. Podcast cannot wait. Okay. Shaun left us again. Okay. I'll keep reading. So going back to Meg. So now Ed is saying, all right, once you were in Joel's room, did the noises stop? Well, everything got even louder, Meg said. Did you hear any other sounds in the house at the time? Maybe pounding on the walls, voices, knocking? No, just doors slamming, footsteps, and furniture being thrown around, Joel said. What about you, Aaron? Well, the same thing Joel heard. I heard what sounded to me like loud whispering too, Meg said. So could you make anything out of that? Ed asked her. No. What about the footsteps? Ed went on. Did they lead anywhere? They went around in circles, said Joel. Meg nodded in agreement. Finally, we called our parents and their friend's house. But by the time they came home, everything had stopped. All they did was tell us that we were hearing things because we were tired. They didn't believe us. Mrs. Foster had questioned, have you ever seen or heard anything unusual in this house? No, like I said before, I've never seen anything. The only thing unusual I've heard is the songbird. She paused. For years, we had a large pine tree outside our bedroom window. A few months ago, we cut the tree down. But every night now, for the past 3 weeks, Al, her husband, and I hear a songbird singing outside our window where that tree used to be. Al, did you hear the bird as well? Yeah, every night. I never gave it any thought, but birds don't sing at night, do they? No, said Ed, not ordinarily. I want to just slightly disagree here because there's different types of birds, and some of them, even here in an urban city such as Chicago, I hear them at the nighttime. Okay, so like 2, 3 in the morning when I go to bed, I hear them. So I don't know if this will be necessarily something weird, supernatural, demonic. I'll be skeptical about this. I'll say, well, who knows? Just then, Lorraine came back downstairs. She nodded discreetly to Ed, indicating that there was a spirit presence in the home, and then took a seat at the dining room table. You said these phenomena happened to you twice, Ed reminded the children. What happened the second time? Well, the second time was last night, Joel replied. Only Meg and I were here. Almost exactly the same thing happened to us on Thursday. This is now getting more crazy. This time Meg was in her bedroom and I had taken on the shower. When I came out the bathroom, I heard the radio on downstairs. The stations were being changed slowly and I yelled down, "Leave that one on." But when I walked down the stairs, no one was there except the dog. He was snarling viciously at something in the room. That was really strange because he couldn't have heard anything. Our dog is deaf. Then I remembered the other night and I ran upstairs and went to bed. About 5 minutes later, the footsteps started downstairs, making the whole house vibrate. Oh my gosh, this will make people go nuts. I mean, literally crazy. And the furniture started being thrown around again. I was scared the first time, but this time I was really scared. Did you hear that too, Meg? Asked Ed. Yeah, just like he did. When you were in your room, did you see or feel anything unusual? Ed asked him. No, not really. How about you, Meg? Well, the more scared I felt, the louder everything became downstairs. The second time, I also saw a dark, purplish cloud in my bedroom. I could never look at it directly, only out of the corner of my eye. When that purple ball was in my room, I kept my eyes closed so I couldn't see it. As I lay there, my hands were closed up in tight fists. All of a sudden, I felt another hand try to force mine to open. It was a really strong hand, like a grown man's hand. It couldn't get my fist open, so it yanked at my arm and trying to pull me out of my bed. It pulled me almost halfway out of bed before I screamed for help. Then it let go, and I ran into Joel's room. Shaun, I'll stop here for a second. Okay, first, everything revolves around Meg because she's the one who didn't just get the book. I don't think anything would happen until she opened the book and started reciting those things and summoning demons. So first she saw, as we heard 10 minutes ago, something projecting from the nearby forest into her room. She saw the light, she saw the presence, she felt it. Now she's seeing this dark purplish cloud in her room. All this time, in all these instances, there are like few similar things. There's a loud noise, furniture is being tossed around, and there's this cold air, cold presence. And as I was reading in other chapters from Ed and Lorraine, they always explain that cold has to do because if the spirit's presence is very weak, so it's feeding on people's energy and the energy in the room. So it absorbs all the heat from your body and all the heat from the room. It also feeds on your negative energy, on your trauma, on your sadness, on your fear, on all of these things, as well as the energy in the room. And the more the energy the entity or the spirit gets, it becomes more visible. It becomes more bigger. It becomes more powerful. You can actually see the shapes instead of just seeing the spirit, or maybe not even seeing the spirit, but feeling there's something. So now all this is happening before her eyes because she's feeding this entity through the fear, and also it's absorbing anything from the area. What are your thoughts about that, about that cloud and about this cold air and presence?
Yeah. So the cloud that she saw is obviously either I shouldn't say obviously, but it is the demon. But I'm not sure necessarily whether it is something that is objectively in the room with her, or if it's something that is being um, projected into her mind. Because obviously demons have the power to do that. Um, as far as the stealing of energy, that's something that ghost hunters, anybody will be able to communicate to you that they steal energy from batteries, laptops, cameras. They will take the body heat, any of
From
that
your internet
energy.
connection,
My
from your
internet
internet
connection,
connection, yeah, they steal all of this. Oh my god.
absolutely. And the fact that they're wanting to make her more afraid, that will then cause an adrenaline response, which increases heart rate, increases the amount of energy. They're basically using you like a battery in order to have more energy to be able to manifest and do more terrible things to you.
Thank you. One third of the story is over. We have 10 pages left. Of course, I won't read every word and we'll be done. So again, she got scared. This is the second demonic experience she had in her house of the same sort. And again, she ran into Joel's room and looked to Joel. What happened next? Well, Meg and I wanted to call the police or my parents or somebody, but we didn't want to go out of the room. Meg told me about the hand, and we both felt something else was going to happen. Like what? We didn't know, but we felt a really strong sense of evil all around us. We wanted to get out of the house, but we didn't want to go through the downstairs. Then I opened the bedroom door. We could see the lights were on downstairs, and we could hear the footsteps stomping around. Maybe those spirits just wanted to party. Maybe they're not so malicious. Maybe they needed energy to turn on the music. I mean, these people are so, I don't know. It's like discrimination against the spirits and demons. Like, how is that okay in today's culture?
They're playing Demon Dance Revolution.
Yeah, dude, like just leave those demons alone. They have rights as well. I opened the bedroom door. We could see the lights were on downstairs and we could hear the footsteps stomping around. But we didn't care. We just wanted out. We went into the hall and nothing happened, Meg said, except the hall upstairs was sweating hot. So we ran down the stairs as fast as we could and got out of the front door. Smart. They actually went out the house to look for help for the first time. And I'm thinking, finally. We got out of the house and decided to run up to the university campus to call somebody. I'll never forget that. There were dogs outside, and when they saw us running, they started to run with us too. But when they got close, they ran backwards. And the birds, as we ran along, the whole woods were full of screeching birds. It's almost like Lilith's spirit was there with them present. So now I was questioning them more. Did you notice if the screeching came from only one side, maybe from the left? Yeah, only from the left side, the boy said emphatically. We were running up the road, but something was chasing us from behind, the boy went on. Whatever was in the house had followed us. We were running toward the street light because we felt we would be safe if we made it there. But it didn't seem like we could make it to the light. We couldn't make any progress. It was like running in place. We were being held back by some sort of force field. Wow. Wow. Sean, I don't know about your stories of supernatural hearing or listening or reading, but man, I don't remember any story like that where an entity in the city, not somewhere like in the woods, in the wilderness, but in the city would actually continue following people once when where the location of the original haunted place is abandoned. Usually the spirits would be there, unless we're talking about a hitchhiking effect where you go dabbling into the area like with a with the skinwalker, something comes attached to you back in your home. We know stories of that, but this was their home. They just went running away, and there was something or someone, maybe plural, like with the legend, following them. Like they saw dogs running backwards. They hear this creepy screeching sound, and they came to this paradox where they were running, but they felt like they're running in the same space. Like this is like something we will see like in sci-fi movies, like something with special video effects. I know this is a super difficult question. It's not fair to you, well, how does this make sense? And I know it doesn't, because we're talking about another dimension, another reality mingling with ours. So now we're talking about the same way that God wants to marry heaven and earth. So we see two dimensions, putting together, merging through the God man Christ. We see the perversion of that here through the demonic realm. They're twisting and trying to avoid the forces, uh, there's some basic laws of science to ban them, where kids are being chased and running away, but they cannot run. They keep running the same space. How can we explain something like this?
Well, we kind of, in order to be able to explain something like this, we really need to tap into the medieval worldview. The idea that angels are, and not just angels as the the job title, but more the ontological angels, what we would think of as the heavenly hosts, being not necessarily arbiters, but being in charge of certain functions within reality. And then if you imagine, when they fell, they lost their place in heaven, but they didn't lose their power over certain areas of reality. Therefore, a demon who would have been entrusted with powers of, maybe causality, time, distance, something like that, where they are facilitating God's will from above, hierarchically down to reality, to this physical plane, that they would have the ability to distort time and space in order to have something like that happen. I think maybe a more modern Christian would say, well, it was an illusion. Demons can implant illusions into your mind. But I think probably the more fun and honestly the more historical Christian understanding would be that these demons had real power over reality when they were angels, and when they fell, they didn't lose those powers.
Thank you for that. So now the boy continues talking. He said these things did catch up to us. And now Meg continues. It was heavy, and it tried to force us down on the road. It's almost like it wanted them to go back to the house, because that's where the epicenter of this haunted thing was happening. So it's like wanted to pull them back where the entity was most powerful and was nesting, if I can put it in that way. So it was heavy, and it tried to force us down on the road. If we didn't get to the light, it would have killed us. Man, this sentence is so theologically packed. If the kids didn't run towards the light, these shadowy forces of darkness would have killed them. So now Ed is asking them, why do you say that? Because there was no air to breathe, Meg responded. Somehow, Joel recalled, we did get to the street light. From there, we could see the house. We weren't that far away. The screeching birds died down a lot. So once when they came to the light, they could breathe normally, see normally, and the pressure, the whole atmospheric evil, dark presence and pressure almost disappeared, or it was there to the minimum. But the light seemed to be getting dim, so we decided to run all the way to the campus without stopping. So the street light was there like a pit stop from their house to there, and but their end goal was go to the university to look for help because their parents were having fun at their friend's house, so they were just heading to the university as the known place in the neighborhood to go seek for help. So we decided to run all the way to the campus without stopping. As soon as we got away from the light, again, very theologically and spiritually important message, the screeching got louder than before. Man, this is like hyenas, like coming after you to devour you. Then we walked along the road until we came to a store that was still open. I had a dollar bill and we got change in there. Then we walked up to the campus and I found a phone. Did you have any trouble with the phone? Lorraine interjected. No, ma'am. I got hold of mom and dad at their friend's house. I told them what happened, but they said we were dreaming and better go back to bed. The boy answered somewhat angrily. Man, I would be upset too if my parents didn't believe me anything. I told them that we weren't home, that we were on the campus and we weren't going back home for sure. While I was talking, I saw a campus cop pull up and start talking to Meg. Mom told me to get him to bring us home and told me they would meet us there. After that, nothing else happened, at least nothing so far today. Ed then questioned Lorraine because she came back, searching the other parts of the house. So Lorraine tells Ed, downstairs, I felt only an overlay of negative vibrations, but there does seem to be something upstairs in one of the children's bedrooms. When I was in Joel's room, I felt an extreme sense of confusion that came over me as I had been gassed. We felt that too, Meg said. The feeling made me lose all sense of where I was. Lorraine went on. This was a spiritual attack, yes. When I left that room, I went to the door of what I suppose was Meg's bedroom. Standing by the door, I felt pressure on my head and on shoulders that began forcing me backwards down the stairs. So something was kicking out her from Meg's bedroom. I decided not to go in that bedroom anymore. It was an inhuman presence, which is a synonym, as I explained in other chapters, for demonic presence, inhuman presence. To the best of my ability, because she was a clairvoyant. To the best of my ability, I consider it to be located in Meg's bedroom. Do you happen to have black conjuring candles in your room? Lorraine asked Meg. Yes, Meg replied, astonished by the question. If things haven't gone too far, Ed told them, I'll try to take care of this matter. Why don't you all go out and take a Sunday drive? Stay away for about an hour, he recommended. And while you're out, please don't discuss or even think about the events of the past few days. When you return, then we'll talk. There are only several pages left, so I don't want to finish too fast, less than an hour. So I'll stop here and ask you, Shaun, to comment on anything we read. First, imagine you're a kid and you call your parents, they don't even believe you. This is the second time they don't believe them. How frustrated you would feel. The second thing is why is it important not to discuss about these things that are happening in the case of haunted place, spirit infestation? Is it because the spirits can hear and maybe change the strategy? So maybe if we can speak now from the perspective of these kids. First, what was happening, the frustrations, how would you feel? And then why do you think until the case is over, the exorcism is over, or priest coming, bless the house, why is it important not to discuss about these things?
Yeah. So from the perspective of a child who is calling out to their parents in need of help, not knowing what to do, not knowing what's happening, and they just know that they're in danger, and so they're looking to an adult for guidance, to just be dismissed. Like, I don't believe you. Not only does it just invalidate your experience, but it is, honestly, I think that is in itself a demonic trick to get you to question your own sanity, to get you to not open up and trust the authorities. Because if you can't trust your parents, you're going to map that experience onto all authorities in your life. That, hey, this is the one time I really needed somebody and they weren't there. You're not going to trust your pastor. You're not going to trust your priest. And what a demon wants to do in these kinds of situations, especially like where she initiated the contact with the demon through attempting to summon a demon. Now, the ritual, the attempt to summon a demon, that has nothing to do with the demon being there. It was the willingness to open yourself up to the demon. That is where you don't have to have a conjuring book to become demonically infested. You could do so with a Ouija board. You don't even have to have a Ouija board. You could go online and do an online Ouija board. It's the openness to want to peer into a forbidden realm, and that opens the door to them.
I think in that case, it can be even a prayer to an entity on the other side.
Yes.
And they're just waiting to come in your home and destroy you. So I think this will be just enough. You don't even need anything except for the thought that will be verbalized. And your wish, once when you speak it, it's, dude, you basically made a covenant with that entity in the same fashion Israel made a covenant with Yahweh. And if this is your new God or the only God, I mean, what would be even your hope to be set free and healed and one day to look for freedom? Because we know of this from stories of celebrities, rich people, also from books and many eyewitness testimonies. People who made deals with the other side, once when they regret further down the road, and unless they go back to God, there's no protection, there's no way out unless they take your life. It's like, in that sense, I don't believe fully, they sold their souls to the devil. But I do believe that someone can make a pact with the devil, and it will come back for what you promised. And the price is always you yourself, your soul. So I'm just thinking, for people who are serious about these things, what are they even thinking that when the payback time comes, when they have to fulfill their part of the bargain, of the pact, of this covenant, if you won't go out, there is no way out. Who will help you unless you call upon the name of the Lord? And it's like, I don't know, for you being in New Age, if you had any friends like that who made certain pacts or deals and they were like regretting, and if they came to Christ or maybe something bad happened.
And unless you're really close to them, even if they did regret it, they would never verbalize that, because obviously then that means that they were wrong. And if there's one thing the world doesn't understand, it's forgiveness. So you can't be wrong. You just have to double down. It just further entrenches you in your belief. Now, the reason that I was saying about the book that it wasn't really the book that brought the demon is because there was an instance where she had done something to cause the demon to come into her life. And what a demon is going to want to do is it's going to want to cover that with layers of shame and guilt so that you will never get to that. You will never be able to dig deep enough to get to that event. There's too many layers of tenderness and pain above that you'll never be able to dig down to that. And so what the demon is trying to do is create memories of trauma and pain caused by people of authority so that she will never trust a priest, a pastor, anybody who would be able to get rid of this issue. So it's just trying to weave layers of pain on top of this event so she can never go back and revoke what she had done. That's what the demon is trying to do. Now, the idea that I'm sorry, I was thinking about the dogs running backwards. That wasn't even part of the question. What was the other part? You said talking about the kids, and then
Well, Ed told the family, leave the home. I'm gonna try to deal with this. Don't even think about demonic infestation in the haunted house and demons. Don't even verbalize with each other. So I'm asking you, could it be because demons are not bound by the walls of the house? If they go out and here, maybe they can change the strategy. Maybe then Ed wouldn't have any advantage. Could it be because of this plan or the scheme of the enemy that he or it can abuse what the family would eventually talk about?
yeah, that could be part of it. I mean, demons can't read your mind. Only God knows what's going on in your heart. So, but they can hear what you say. So, they could be listening to your plan, but they pretty much know what the game is, right? As soon as the demon is exposed, the jig is up. It's only a matter of time before an exorcist gets involved. Now, an exorcist cannot command a demon to leave, right? Like that's something that we often think like, oh yeah, the exorcist comes in and they do their little magic ritual and they make the sign of the cross and the demon goes away, right? But that's not what happens. There is a priest, Father Carlos Martin, and he does a show, The Exorcist Files, and one of the heartbreaking statistics that he brought up was in his experience and the experience of other exorcists that he knows in the United States. 60% of those afflicted choose to leave because they love what they're getting out of the sin too much. They know they're demonically possessed. They know that they're suffering. They know it will increase, and they know how to get help, but they choose to leave. They're not going to stay. They're not going to be complicit with the process because they are not willing to do the work. So 60% of those who got to the point of going to the priest turn back, which is just mind blowing and heartbreaking. But it just points to really how ensnared they are and how ensnared the demon can get them. So, it's not something where, like I said, exorcists can wave a magic wand and get them kicked out. They have to want to participate in this. And so that's part of the layers that the demon is going to build around this. Not only are they going to make you feel shameful, not only are they going to make you feel guilty, like you can't be forgiven, but they will also make you feel special. That, look, you got something that nobody else has. You're special. I chose you for a reason. And so that's what's going on there. Now, as far as not thinking about it and talking about it, the other thing that does is, okay, there's 2 points I want to get to on this. One is tulpa theory. So it's this idea that a thought form gains energy the more that you think about it, the more that more people are thinking about it, and so they're adding to the power of this thing. This is a concept in Buddhism that just by thinking about something, you can empower it, create it, bring it into being. But the second thing is thinking about something is by definition directional. So you are directing energy to that thing, or at least in your mind. You are choosing to think about it. You're engaging your volition, and you're taking it in a certain direction. That's why, when we talk about things like unclean thoughts, right? The Bible says, take every thought captive to the Lord. It doesn't mean that every single thing that runs through your mind is always going to be good all the time. But it means don't dwell on them, because when you dwell on them and you end up directing energy to them, that's when something that might be a temptation either of the flesh or of the devil becomes something that is sinful, because you're engaging it and directing energy towards it. So engaging the demonic and directing something towards it may empower it. The third thing that it does, and I said I only had 2 points, but I guess I'm deciding I have 3 now. The third point is that by giving it more thoughts, you are giving it more attachments, more things that it can attach to. So now it's not just this one moment in time that, you know, the whole conjuring. It's not this one moment in time that it's attached to, but now it's, oh no, but she's also engaged in these thoughts towards me. And so I have this hold on her because now I have this right to be here because she is volitionally extending thoughts towards me, which is why focusing on the demonic too much, even though we do something like this, podcast, being too entrenched in something like that can lead to being demonized because you're directing too much energy towards it.
You know, that was my next question or like theory. The first one was like, is it because, if let's say a family that has the problem with the demonic infestation is, talking about the strategy. So I was thinking, well, could, that demons hearing that and maybe changing their plans or their own tactics based on that. But the second one was like, well, can in a way us talking or thinking about something so much fuel that in a way? And then when you started talking about the energy, I was like, I hope some Christians who are like hardcore fundamentalist Christians will not think that we're going to New Age. We're talking about energy. Energy does exist. It's so evident, but we're not talking in a way that is pro New Age. We're just speaking of the matter of fact, like the energy exists. We are the energy. We are, we project energy. So it's not in some. I just want to tell to people who may be too sensitive when they hear certain words. We're not talking about the New Age perspective. But I have Amber's question. She says, how much church hurt is really caused by the demonic? And I don't know if this answer can be answered in such a short time. We have all the time, so it's up to you how long you want to go with this.
I would say it would depend on what you mean by caused. If you mean that the demons are the sole cause of the church hurt, I would assume not a lot. But if you mean that demons are a contributing cause, I'd say all of it. Right? So obviously they're going to participate in anything that hurts somebody. So I think it really depends on what you mean by cause.
Yeah, Amber, if you're still watching, maybe you can clarify. But I can add on that. Yeah, whenever it's finances being stolen, or maybe adultery, or like we covered some of our reaction videos with pastors and preachers who are abusing their flock, sometimes even their own children, condemning them, acting as bosses on the pulpit. That's all. I'm not saying these people are damned to hell or like they're possessed, but they are, in a way, oppressed by the demonic to get these ideas and these desires that are of the flesh. So in that way, I would agree with you that, yeah, everything that comes to the church hurt, to heretical teachings or blasphemies, of course, it's always, imposed or encouraged by the demonic. Okay,
yeah, and oh, okay. And I was just going to say that encouraged, that's what I would say it's more pointing to, because the way that demons can influence us when they're not, when we're not being demonized, right? So there's demonization, which kind of falls under the 4 levels of being demonized that the Roman Catholic Church has done an amazing job of listing out. And then there's just every single person on earth is being influenced by demons, because that's what they do. It's not as though you're at any one time never being influenced by the demonic. They don't take time off. So yeah, to what degree, I don't know. And maybe that would really depend on how much you are. I was going to say how much you're in the word, but that has nothing to do with it. I mean, honestly, being in the word is good, but there are people who study the Bible and don't even believe it. Probably more how much time you spend with God, how much time you spend reflecting on your own actions, confessing your sins, repenting, being humble, meditating on God's word and storing it in your heart as truth. Then I would say that would mitigate a lot of that. But the more time you spend giving over to worldly passions, the more the demonic are going to have a stronghold, and the more influence they're going to have, maybe not directly over your decisions, but indirectly over how you perceive the choices that are put before you.
Okay, thank you for that. So once when the family left the house and went outside, Ed and Lorraine remained inside. They knew the children could not have made up the story. It contained too many specific details that could have been learned only through experience. Ed and Lorraine cannot always determine the precise nature of a spirit simply by interviewing the people involved. The demonic spirit attempts to remain anonymous, Ed explains, but in the long run, it really cannot. It leaves telltale signs of preternatural power. For example, these spirits usually disregard the physical environment. A few years ago, we were in a home where a television cameraman was being hit with marbles being thrown at him right through a wall. That's insane. Other times, the demonic makes things out of nothing. If solid, these materializations are warm to touch, indicating some process of energy manipulation. Sometimes the materializations dematerialize just as quickly. Other times they will remain. I have a collection of these apports, APPORTS. This is how they're called. Have these apports or apports, I don't know how to pronounce them, or teleported substances, this will be a synonym, have they ever been scientifically analyzed? Absolutely, Ed replied. Absolutely, Ed replied. This physical evidence is necessary to document the need for an exorcism. Whenever these substances manifest in a case, I take a sample and send it out to a laboratory for a compositional breakdown. The apports most frequently produced are urine, bile, vomit, blood, or excrement. These substances appear because they're either being teleported into a home or they've been synthetically assembled by the spirits holding sway. Such apports or apports usually contain all the minerals, trace elements, and amino acids found in nature. There's nothing especially new or mysterious about them usually, other than how they got there. Demonic spirits may be able to do strange things, but they are limited to manipulating the physical environment. Contrary to what our friends, the Satanists, may think, a devil is not a god. It has no true powers of creation. It can only rearrange what's already here. Shaun, I'll stop here because this is so crazy. Until I read this story, I have never heard of anything similar in my whole life, that these demons can materialize certain substances and put them together and throw at people. And most of the times, these are like slime and poop and blood and the most horrible things. Like, what is even to think about these things? Have you ever experienced these things or maybe read about them?
Yeah. Nope. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
That's the whole answer? Yeah, maybe, yeah, no.
It says it's. I don't know. It says I'm muted and unmuted at the same time, so I'm not sure what's happening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So that was Schrodinger's mute button for a minute. Okay. So I have heard of apports before. I've never seen one. But I've heard that they are something that the demons can either bring from another place, bring from another realm, or gather from the environment and turn it, like crystallize it into something solid. So it would be something that would typically not exist in that state of matter, and then make it solid, which is weird. But they can't just create something ex nihilo, and they can't create a new thing. Obviously, because they're not God. All they can do is take what already exists and make some sort of weird amalgamation of it.
Yeah, it's like kids having snowball fight, but except this is like a poop ball fight or booger ball fight. Reminds me of that old game from 30 years ago, Booger Man. I don't know if you played it on arcades. It's like a funny version of it, even though I believe if I was there, there would be nothing funny about this. I only have a couple of pages left. Why is it necessary to send the family out of the house? Well, if the data I get during the interview is ambiguous, or if there is no visible phenomena going on, Ed answers, then to determine if the spirit presence is human or inhuman, I have to resort to religious provocation. It's a dangerous, but also a revealing tactic. Almost anything can happen in this kind of situation. So if I have to provoke it, I'll send everyone out to lunch and stay in the house by myself. This is very wise and shows his heart, how he cares about people that he helps. In some cases, Lorraine will stay with me, but her role goes no further than discernment. There's nothing a clairvoyant can do against a malicious demonic spirit, although there are a number of ways a negative entity can seriously harm a sensitive individual. When I go it alone, I use provocation because I'm not a psychic. I've got to cause activity, then I can perceive it with my five senses like everyone else. I always carry a relic of Padre Pio along with me for protection. The more religious power I add, the more likely it is to be provoked to respond. Knowing what I'm up against, many times I do feel more comfortable carrying a tire iron and a shotgun. Why do you need a shotgun against the demonic entity unless it's materialized? But then you can't kill something that exists since the beginning of time. If there's a place where the disturbance is localized, then I'll go to that area first. Man, he was a brave man. He'll go there by himself. Priests usually go by two, if they can, if they have available priests or pastors. If the family has told me there's no specific location, then I'll just go from room to room until something happens. If a ghost is responsible for the problem, then it will usually show itself to me as I'm going through the house. It knows that the joke is over and a ghost really wants no quarrel with God. But if it is a demonic spirit, so again, this is very important to make a difference between a ghost and a spirit, which is demonic spirit or inhuman spirit, then this spirit is sworn to hate God and is repulsed by the religious objects. Then sooner or later, things will let go. The temperature in the house will drop until it's freezing cold or rise to oven-hot levels. Up will rise the stink of rotten flesh or some other foul odor. I may hear something explode, or maybe a threatening voice sounding like no human being you ever heard will give me an order to leave. I may hear footsteps telepathically projected, running upstairs. This is a ploy to get me to follow so that I could possibly be cornered in some room. Unseen hands may scroll an obscenity on the walls in front of me. Man, I was thinking about Daniel's experience when he saw that, those letters on the wall. Other times, none of this will happen. And then, when I least expect it, the spirit will betray itself and begin to manifest in black. The demonic spirit hates, and I mean hates, any mention of the name of God or the use of religious objects. This entity is so full of guilt, hate, and jealousy that religious provocation is actually painful to the human spirit. Wow. Any comment on how the demonic spirit, uh, is having this strategy? And again, this is not changing the Bible. This is just helping us from experience, adding on what we already know in the Bible. This is very useful for anyone who is there as a priest or as a pastor dealing with the demonic.
Yeah, I mean the demonic. These are defeated enemies of God. So when an exorcist or someone like a demonologist, Ed makes no qualms. He's not the exorcist. He's not the one coming in to clean it up. His job is just to do the investigation, and so that's what he goes in for: religious provocation. He's just trying to see, is there something here that's going to respond to the holy? Because if there is something that responds to what is holy, carbon dioxide doesn't respond with antipathy to holy objects, right? And an ungrounded fuse box isn't going to respond with antipathy to holy objects. This has to be an intelligence, and so that's kind of what he's doing, is just feeling it out in order to prepare his investigation to turn it over to the church, so that way they would determine if they can come in and do a minor rite of exorcism, or if there's something more important, or not more important, something more drastic called for. So the demons, I completely agree with what he says there. They're so full of jealousy and hate for us, and so full of guilt for what they lost, that they can't help but respond with anger and aggression, because it does hurt them when they're reminded of God's goodness and his mercy towards us, and what he promises us, and what they lost. Another thing that Father Carlos Martins talks about, is that there are saints that are considered the adversaries of certain demons. And it's because, and of course we'll like this because of Heiser, but the Catholics and Orthodox definitely like this. The saints in victory occupy the position or the state that those demons fell from. And so the ones who are currently residing in those posts have a certain power to afflict those demons, whether it's because God gives them the power to be able to trample down on those who they've usurped. Obviously, power given through Christ, not of their own, or the demons are particularly afflicted because they see somebody who's taken the post that they were meant to have. And of course, Father Martins goes into a lot of detail regarding certain spirits and what their position was, and getting that all through communicating with the entity, not in order to necessarily pry into the things that he's not supposed to know, more as a way of trying to understand what rights a demon has to be there, so that he can help the person become a penitent and get their freedom by releasing the bonds that the demon is holding on to, which I think is really important, because you could, do an exorcism, cast out a demon, and yet the demon still has a right to be there, because the person is still holding on to that hurt. They're still holding on to whatever it is that allowed the demon to be there in the first place. So like Jesus says, they'll leave and then wander through the wilderness, come back with 7 worse than themselves, and find the place clean, swept, and ready to go. So if you don't get rid of whatever is causing that attachment, then you're really not doing anything but sending them on a vacation. So I think it's the idea that you should never communicate with a demon, just yell at it and tell it to leave. Well, I mean, yeah, if that's all you're looking for is evicting it, maybe, but they're just going to come back. If the person hasn't worked through that, hasn't forgiven themselves for that, sought reconciliation for that, confessed that what they did was wrong, and renouncing that in Jesus's name, I mean, the demon still has a right to be there.
Speaking of vacations, do you think demons have the union insurance and paid days off, stuff like that?
Well, I mean, so I'm sure that they have some benefits, but I hear that their work is hell, so probably not probably not great.
So funny. I also want to say how they're so smart when they see the threat from when they saw the threat coming from Ed and how he was skilled. They would try to corner him and like mimic voices or noise, or he would feel cold. All of this would be the strategy, the same strategy that would apply to the family members, and they'll be scared and clueless. But he knows these things because he experienced them many times before. He says they'll try to corner me and scare me, so I would leave too. But he wouldn't back down, and I just love that. Okay. For provocation purposes, Ed uses a crucifix and holy water. Items both anathema to the demonic. Finding their way to the basement, Ed scattered holy water at all 4 points of the cellar floor. When he said aloud, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command all spirits, whether human or diabolical, to leave this dwelling and never return." The Warrens waited for a response, but there was none. So the basement was pretty much okay. Why is Ed allowed to use holy water when he isn't a priest? It isn't a matter of being allowed, Ed says. People are allowed to use holy water in their homes. The difference is that the water I use in my work has been blessed by certain special priests who are exorcists. The water carries a very real positive power to it. It's not the water itself that is important, but the piety it represents. I only use the water, I don't bless it. On the first floor, Ed repeated the same procedure in each of the rooms. The process known to the exorcist as binding requires the infesting spirit to either show itself or move on. Having bound the cellar and all of downstairs rooms without incident, the Warrens were ready to approach the second floor where they knew the difficulty was lurking. But as they prepared to act, a dread terror swept over them in a second. For the Warrens, this telepathically projected emotion experienced simultaneously by both of them was a distinct indication of an inhuman demonic presence. The demonic, says Ed, projects terror the way a rattlesnake uses its rattle as a warning. Suddenly, a flash of movement was seen at the top of the stairs. Then a door slammed, the sound practically jolting them off of their feet. The Warrens thought twice about going any further. They knew that any error in their judgment on their part could result in a backlash of terror that might last for years. They began climbing the staircase to the second floor. Yet, as hard as they tried, neither Ed nor Lorraine could get any more than halfway up. The same distortion of the laws of physics that happened to the kids when they're running towards the campus happened now to Ed and Lorraine. Pushing against them was an impenetrable, unyielding force. Lorraine said the following: "It felt like we were walking shoulder deep against a powerful, fast-moving river. As much as they resisted, the power being exerted against them was impossible to overcome. Slowly, the Warrens backed down the stairs so as not to be knocked over backwards. At the bottom of the stairs, for a brief sound, diabolical laughter rang out. Annoyed, Ed threw more holy water on the stairs, which caused the pressure to diminish enough to let them reach the top. Ed sprinkled Aaron's room with holy water and then recited the expulsion command without any incident. That room bound, the Warrens moved to Joel's next room. To their relief, the room was vacant. Again, Ed went through the binding procedure without trouble. Mag's room was the last stop, and this is where everything was happening, right? Ed twisted the doorknob, cracked the door ajar, and then swung it wide open. They both stepped back involuntarily. There was something in the room. I got goosebumps. Though invisible, it projected a horrible sense of misery. It was an absolutely heartbreaking emotion projected by an entity that is damned to perish. So first they use fear, now sympathy, because it's like if this is not working and the spirit is like, it's like running out of options, it will do anything. Yet the Warrens knew better than to react to this emotional ploy. It was an appeal for sympathy. Instead, with a steely composure, Ed walked into the room with cross in his hand. The bedroom was freezing cold. One last time, Ed threw holy water in all four corners of the room. Then, commanding, he stated, "In the name of God." Oh, he didn't use Jesus Christ. Now he said, "In the name of God, show yourself or leave." A dead silence lingered. "Give us some sign of departure," Ed said loud in an empty room, "or exorcism will be conducted here this very day." Almost instantly, the morbid sense of misery began to drain away from them. Then the temperature in the room gradually returned to normal. The spell was broken. Okay, before we're done, I only have one page left. Okay, so there was no this was not a regular exorcism. It wasn't even an exorcism. It was basically threatening, maybe even with a little bluff, because there was no priest, there was no pastor there. It was basically threatening a demon will perform exorcism unless you leave. So it was basically like, it's just like, oh, if you don't do this, I'll do this. And it says the spell was broken. My question is like, would this be enough for the spell be broken? What if the demonic entity is just playing to like, oh, we'll leave this place maybe for a month or 2 or 3, but actually we were not kicked out. We can still go back, because we were not expelled. So my question is, was the spell truly broken? Because according to Ed, it was.
I think that the spell that he was referring to was the misery that they were feeling, the pressure of the water. I think that's the spell he's referring to. What he did with the water is essentially a house blessing, and I mean, in Roman Catholic tradition, you can bless your own house. In Eastern Orthodox tradition, you have a priest come in. I think it's once a year and bless your home. But yeah, I mean, in the Western tradition, you have the right to perform a minor rite of exorcism by yourself, which is essentially just a house blessing. That's not going to get rid of a demon that has rights to be there. So Meg is going to have to do work to get rid of it. Now, as far as the water having been blessed by an exorcist and it having special power, I think that that's probably just maybe Roman Catholic sanctified superstition, because I think the Roman Catholic Church would say that all blessed water is the same water. Holy water is holy water. It's not like there's degrees of holy water, so it's not that it's going to be any more powerful. That being said, yeah, I've seen holy water work, so I know that there is something absolutely potent to it, and I think that it has a lot to do with the redemption and the new creation. But I'll save my speculation to myself.
Okay, we're almost done. Looking around the bedroom, the Warrens saw why the spirit had taken up this room as its abode. Meg's bedroom contained black conjuring candles. She wasn't just in books, she was like preparing this whole thing to basically welcome this, if it's a demon or a local principality, small g god, whatever it was, whatever it came, it was powerful. And I think, I mean, again, based on all the stories we assessed, not just with the demonologists, all the stories, spooky stories we've been assessing in the last couple of years, this seems more than a regular demonic possession. It was either a lot of these demons, or it was almost like a local principality, dominion, power, authority, something like that. This was like, I don't know. It seems like more powerful than your regular demon. And she was welcoming it with books, with the whole atmosphere, with black candles, occult vestments, and books containing the right for profane rituals of all sorts. Books, plural. So it's not just the book that her mom bought her, but Meg, because she was curious, she kept gaining more on these things. Ed placed the items in the girl's trash basket, set them out in the hallway, and then sealed the room by reading a prescribed prayer of sanctification. Looking through the living room window, Lorraine noticed the Foster family sitting in their car in the driveway. She opened the door and waved them inside. Everything depends on your future actions, Ed explained once they came in. Any improvements you may have thought about making your lives out to begin right now. And this is the heart also of a pastor or priest. Be there for people, warn them, love them, but also educate them. Right. When people need to be rebuked and warned, they need to. Certainly, he told Meg, there should be no more rituals of any sort. All the occultic books and conjuring paraphernalia that were in your bedroom belong in the garbage. Beyond that, I strongly recommend that you folks have the house blessed by a clergyman in the area. What happened, you see, is that your daughter's meddling with supernatural rituals actually drew a negative spirit into your house. The blessing needs to be done as a precaution against the spirit's return. However, it will be effective only if you folks keep up an emotional atmosphere that does not attract such entities to your home again. My advice is to arrange for this blessing to be done today, not tomorrow. Most of all, Ed stressed, your best protection in the coming weeks and months is to develop a positive interest as a shield against the negative. If you're religious minded people, consider going to church as family once a week as a show of sincerity. This gesture would be a good start toward counteracting the spirit force that was drawn in here. In short, your daughter has done something negative that now has to be balanced out by something positive. This sentence kind of bugged me out. Like, this, I mean, but in a way, I do understand. But let me just finish one paragraph is left. As matters stand, you are all vulnerable for a replay of these events unless you develop a desire for this not to happen again. At the front door, Ed made a final comment. By the way, the spirit in this home is dormant, he warned, but it hasn't vanished. That's what you and Shaun speculated several minutes ago. With that, Lorraine's eyeglasses suddenly rose from her hand in full view of everyone, looked once in the air, and then smashed to the floor, breaking the left lens. The Fosters watched in amazement, though they barely understood what happened in their home. They were simply victims who had seen the supernatural as a plaything when in reality they had been its toy. Oh, man, I wish there was further, there was like a sequel to this story to see if something came back to them. But your concluding thoughts first were that Meg had to do something positive to balance the things out. It's not necessarily biblical, but I understand he was just encouraging them to change their lives, to be more spiritual, more godly. So maybe in that way to balance to the spirits. Once when they see its healthy atmosphere in the whole family, they will not found this family interesting to attack again. But also this thing as like when everything was done, or they thought it was done, Lorraine glasses were lifted and then shattered, at least the left part, the left lenses, and like oh well, it is what it is. So like, is the entity really gone? And then the story ends. That's all what we were left with. Any concluding thoughts on this?
Yeah. So notice a few things. First, he took the books and all the paraphernalia and put them in Meg's wastebasket and left it in the hallway because he can't get rid of it. That's not repentance. Repentance isn't somebody else doing it. Repentance would be her throwing it away. So he left that for her because this is her decision to make. Secondly, the idea of balancing out the good and bad, I think he was probably just using a metaphor that they would understand. Obviously, it isn't a matter of balancing it out. It's a matter of making the home uninhabitable for those dark spirits. They don't want to be around joy. I mean, we know as Christians, we know not everyone who's a non-Christian is being plagued by demons in a way that is like formally demonized, right? So we know that there is a way in which you live and conduct yourself that makes it untenable for demons to be there in any substantial form. And so I think that that's just what he's trying to communicate to them, that you've done something bad. You're now very fertile soil for the demonic. And so what we need is to move you away from that towards something that's good and life-giving. He offers them to go to church, and I think maybe because he's not a pastor, he wouldn't be so pushy. I would have been like, y'all need to get in church. Screw that, whatever. No, get to church. And of course that's the Catholic coming out in him of the, first there's the repentance. You need to throw the books away. Then there's the penance. You need to show your sincerity. And in order to get this situation resolved. Then at the end, he says that, the demon is dormant, but not gone. So all he did was he weakened the power that the demon had there. He didn't weaken the demon at all. He just weakened its presence in the house. But as if on command, it shows I'm still here. Like, you haven't gotten rid of me. And I don't know if that was if that actually happened right there at the end as they were walking out, or if that was more of like a flourish in order to be able to end the story on a high note. I do think that it happened. But I wonder if it happened right as they were walking out, because it seems so on cue. But that's not really something demons do. They don't really want to add credibility to what a Christian is saying. I think that it would have been more something to inspire fear in the heart of the family. But yeah, that's kind of my concluding thoughts on that.
Thank you for that. Well, Shaun, both you and I endured through this hour and 40 minutes almost through this sandstorm, strong winds, both in Iowa and Illinois. We endured through technical issues, internet issues. We've been also a little bit delayed because we've been recording a lot. I also want to thank our friends, especially Troy and Amber, for questions, dialoguing with us. It was more fun with you guys and with all of you who also didn't comment. We love you all. We appreciate. If you didn't subscribe or like or share our material, please do so. It doesn't cost you anything. It's all free, given to all of you. But it seriously helps us when you support us by liking, subscribing, sharing our stuff. This Sunday, I'll be interviewing at 6 p.m. Central Time, Dr. Mark Chavales. I think that's how he's pronounced his last name. We'll be talking about Genesis 6, Giants, King Og, Bulls of Bashan, and potential relationship, maybe not so much with Anunnaki, as far as found out, but maybe with Apkallu. So it will be a fun episode that combines Old Testament theology, ancient Near East, Mesopotamian stories and mythologies and things of that sort. And for that topic, you can thank our friend Troy, who suggested that topic. So once when I offered the 10 topics to Dr. Chavalas, he picked this one. So it was Troy who suggested this one, and thanks to him, I went through a dozen of articles and 3 or 4 books. So no wonder I've been having headache. So thanks, Troy. We still love you. Anyway, God bless all of you. Be encouraged. Get closer to God. Go and serve Him, and we'll see you this Sunday. Take care.